Good afternoon and good morning to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome back to the ATA Carnet webinar, Are You in Need of a Jumpstart for Stalled Revenues? Take 2. I thank everybody who stuck with us after we had technical issues last time, and hopefully this one goes much smoother. My name is Jason Palumbo, and I will be the moderator for this webinar. Today's presentation is scheduled to run for 50 minutes, with an additional 10 minutes for questions and answers. All attendees will receive a link to a recording of this webinar and the accompanying slides in an email within a few days. Please note that today's webinar is eligible for 1 CCS or 1 CES credit. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you how you can interact with us today. Throughout the webinar, we encourage you to type your questions into the question box in the control panel at the right of your screen. We'll answer as many questions as we can as time allows, and we probably will hold them to the very end because there's a lot of information to get through here. You can also find 2 PDF handouts in the webinar control panel, and any questions we can't get to, we will answer by email. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Amanda Barlow, the Vice President of ATA Carnet for Roanoke Insurance Group. Ms. Barlow regularly presents on behalf of Roanoke for a wide variety of associations, the Department of Commerce, and trade groups. In addition, Ms. Barlow is tasked with training U.S. Customs and Border Protection on the use and processing of both U.S. and foreign ATA Carnets. In the halls of customs, Amanda is known as the Carnet Lady. Amanda authored and taught several semesters at the Export Promotion Marketing course for International Trade and Marketing Department at FIT SUNY, where she has been an adjunct professor since 2006. Ms. Barlow serves as an advocate for export growth in many capacities. She's a member of the NCB FAA Education Institute Marketing Subcommittee, as well as the Trade Support Network and USCIB's Customs and Trade Facilitation Committee. She serves as a secretary and marketing chair on the Organization of Women in International Trade in New York, and is an active member of that organization in Orange County, California. She was also recently nominated to Southern California's National District Export Council. With that introduction, I will hand you over to Amanda.
Thank you very much, Jason, for that, everybody. So we're going to start this webinar, and how can ATA Carnet boost your revenue? By providing a complete ATA Carnet solution to your customers and adding ATA Carnet to your suite of services, you will help develop, grow, and retain clients, as ATA Carnets are an added value service. And ATA Carnets set you apart when you're bidding on a new account. To provide them with logistics for a project, you can bring something additional to the table by providing ATA Carnet document preparation, which will save them customs hassles and ease customs clearances, as well as save your clients money. And you can make additional income from the document preparation. So there's added revenue for you there as well. By providing these ancillary products and services, it helps you round out your offerings and make you a one-stop shop for your customers. So let's take a step back. Now you know why it's important to add ATA Carnet to your services, but really, what is an ATA Carnet? It is a passport for cargo. So it is just like a personal passport for an individual, but this covers actual cargo, whether it's shipped or hand carried. It's considered an international development tool because it really helps aid U.S. business expanding in foreign markets. What does the Carnet do? It allows temporary entry of items, duty-free and tax-free, whether shipped or hand carried. Temporary means goods can enter into a foreign country for 1 year, not longer. And duty-free and tax-free is very important to note, because a lot of times I get questions from customers saying, well, if we're going to a free trade agreement country, the U.S. has a free trade agreement with, why would I need an ATA Carnet? It's already duty-free, my goods, to enter into that country. Well, every free trade agreement that the United States is signatory to and is in effect currently is only a duty-free agreement. None of them are tax-free. And most of our largest trading partners, which we have these free trade agreements with, have really high import tax. So while you're going in duty-free under the free trade agreement, you're not going in tax-free. And that is what ATA Carnet does, duty-free and tax-free. And whether shipped or hand carried, this is a very important note. Your customers, and we all have certain clients who like to grab their tools or grab their samples, grab their trade show booth, and actually check them as excess baggage on a commercial airline or drive them into Canada or into Mexico. In that case, you can stay in the life of your customer by offering them the document preparation for their customs clearance. And in some cases, you could meet them at the airport to help them with the Carnet clearance when they're exiting or re-entering the United States, as well as having your agents overseas greet them at the airport. And actually, Israel requires that a customs house broker meet every jewelry shipment that is being hand carried by the passenger at the airport, and that the customs broker actually clears the Carnet into Israel for the jewelry. And shift means you can obviously, you're providing the logistics, you're moving the goods for your clients, you're providing the customs clearance, you can also provide the ATA Carnet documentation. So it keeps you in the entire life cycle of your customer's international business. It is an international customs document that is very important to note. It is a very serious document. It's a harmonized, standardized customs document. It's the only type of document that touches the hands of not only U.S. Customs, but potentially up to 77 other custom administrations in the world. But it also means that any erroneous information on the ATA Carnet can constitute fraud, and can constitute fraud not only to U.S. Customs, but also to up to 77 other customs administrations in the world. It is established by the International ATA Carnet Convention, and it was modernized by the Istanbul Convention on Temporary Admissions. The U.S. is obviously signatory to the ATA Carnet Convention. But let's take another step further back and actually look at the concept of temporary importation. What does it mean? Goods are going into a foreign country for a temporary basis and coming back out. When goods go into the country on a temporary basis, customs requires some form of guarantee that those goods are going to come back out. And we, again, some of the roadblocks we run into, specifically in the hand carry environment, is customers saying, well, I'm just taking my samples in. I swear I'm bringing them out. I know I'm bringing them out. Why do I need to get a Carnet, or why do I need to post duties? Because customs, there's no customs administration in this world that'll just take somebody's promise, verbal promise, without a financial guarantee tied to that promise. So what are the options? Posting the duties and taxes and getting refunded after the goods have re-exported from that country. In the United States, we have a system similar basically as a duty drawback system. Posting another form of financial guarantee or in scheme could be a temporary importation under bond if that country has surety system and a temporary importation under bond option, or posting a letter of credit or a bank guarantee in that country in a bank under the requirements by that customs administration. Obviously, ATA Carnet is an option for temporary importation. And smuggling. Yes, believe it or not, smuggling is illegal everywhere. But the reason smuggling is on this slide is because, again, we get calls or pushback from clients when they say, no, I'm taking them in. I know they're samples. I'm promising to bring them out. But they don't realize that by not declaring that they have commercial goods in their suitcase, they are unintentionally smuggling. Why is ATA Carnet good for your clients? It eliminates posting of that financial guarantee in the foreign country, in the foreign currency. So it eliminates having to post those duties and taxes. Let's look at our top trading partners. European Union, you're looking at minimum 20% import tax, not including duty classification. China, another huge trading partner for the United States, 17% to enter goods for trade shows. And Mexico, as I mentioned before, Mexico is part of NAFTA, technically a duty-free country. They have a 16% import tax that needs to be posted on goods, whether they're going in on a permanent basis or whether they're going in temporarily. It eliminates posting that other, so if they don't post the duties, it eliminates posting that other form of guarantee, whether it's a TIB, a letter of credit, bank guarantee, and so on and so forth. And it's one customs document for all customs transactions. It takes care of your export registration, your export documentation and declaration out of the United States, because that's done in the Carnet. Takes care of the importation documentation and importation requirements into the foreign country on the Carnet. It takes care of the re-exportation documentations for that client, for that country, and a re-importation documentations, again, all housed in the same ATA Carnet, just like a personal passport. The ATA Carnet, and the part that's really good to note, is that the ATA Carnet replaces only the documentation to do with duty and tax assessment. The ATA Carnet does not replace any participating government agencies' import and export licensing requirements. So if you do specialize in commodities that require licensing under BIS, ITAR, Fish and Wildlife, Department of Commerce, Department of State, Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, veterinary health certificates if you're in the live animal business, and so on and so forth. Any of those participating government agencies have licensing requirements. Those are required in addition to the ATA Carnet. And actually, ITAR has specific licenses that allow for exportation and reimportation that go along with the Carnet. Same as Fish and Wildlife, they have what's called the CITES permit, which is the Convention on International Trafficking in Endangered Species. So if you're in the apparel business where your clients have a lot of fur, or the jewelry business with red coral, or certain types of stingray, alligator, so on and so forth, they can obtain a CITES license. They're required to obtain a CITES license, and there's actually a Carnet-specific CITES license that goes inside the Carnet. Because if you're going to a Carnet country and your goods are subject to CITES, most likely the foreign country you're going to will also be a CITES signatory country. So it is very important that you have the US requirement for CITES as well as the foreign country. And that is all done within the Carnet CITES license. ATA Carnet benefits continue. The list is endless to the benefits of ATA Carnet. It allows unlimited entries and departures for up to 1 year. So your client can use the Carnet as often as they want within that 1 year period, giving them a lot of flexibility with how often they want to go see clients in Canada, how often they want to go to trade shows in Europe. It also acts as a US Customs registration form, the CBP 4455 form. So if your clients are going to a non-ATA Carnet country, they need to file some form of export registration with CBP so they can return to the United States without having to do a formal entry or go through a tedious process of proving that the goods originated out of the US. The 4455 has a lot of restrictions, and it varies tremendously by port policy. So a lot of times we have clients who do a lot of business in the Caribbean with jewelry. They are much more comfortable using the Carnet to use the Carnet as just their registration with US Customs, and they don't obtain any foreign counterfoils. And actually, to that point, Miami Customs, they don't like the 4455 at all. They reject all types of exports that are going to non-Carnet countries and on temporary basis, and require the Carnet in place of the 4455, which is very interesting because that's coming from Customs themselves. They feel more confident and secure with the Carnet as opposed to the 4455 registration. The ATA Carnet minimizes language problems. It takes its harmonized, standardized international customs document obtained here in the United States in American English. Split and partial shipments are possible on the Carnet. What that means is your client could go, for example, let's say they're in the medical field, and they go to the huge Medica show in Germany. It's one of the largest medical device shows in the world. And they're at the medical device show. They take thousands of items, pop-up booths, 3 different demo units, so on and so forth. They come back from the Medica show in Germany and say, you know, Medica was such a great show. We have been invited to do private demos in hospitals in the UK, in Canada, in Australia, with 1 demo unit on the Carnet. Well, they just take that 1 unit, do a partial shipment on that unit, and use the Carnet for their partial and split shipments. But the best part of all, arrangements are made in advance in American English and US dollars. So what type of goods qualify for ATA Carnet? Basically everything and anything that's intended for temporary entry, that's going in and coming back out, and it falls into one of these 3 categories. These 3 categories are actually very lengthily written out descriptions in the ATA Carnet Convention, and they cover a variety of goods. So one item is commercial samples, goods used to generate a sales order, not for sale, but to generate the sales order. Professional equipment, tools of the trade, mining equipment, camera equipment, anything a business needs to be able to service a contract, they can use under professional equipment. And finally, goods for exhibitions and fairs and similar cultural events. So conferences, congresses, demonstrations, I think I've got them all, exhibitions, and so on and so forth. So what are the types of ATA Carnet customers? I have here on the screen 4 examples. A medical device manufacturer who's exhibiting $400,000 worth of samples at the CMEF show in China. Then you have $10 million worth of mining equipment taken to Canada for a mining project. An oil and gas engineer who's taking specialized tools and parts to repair an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico. And finally, we have a rock band touring Europe with $100,000 worth of musical equipment. As you can see, it's a wide variety of types of commodities, countries of destination, values, intended use, and modes of transportation. So it is very diverse. More examples: wearing apparel, billiards table, camera equipment, display booths, human skulls for medical testing, theatrical scenery, catering equipment, jewelry, live animals, sporting goods, musical instruments, power systems. And actually, power systems is a very interesting story. So the city of Dublin took their entire city off electrical grid. To keep the city alight and functioning, they rented generators from a US company. The generators left the United States, went to Ireland, entered on the ATA Carnet. The project took 6 months. Once the project was over, generators came out on Carnet and returned to the United States. The citizens of Dublin were not aware that they were running on American generators while their entire electrical grid was being refurbished and fixed. So what countries accept ATA Carnets? You hear a lot of numbers thrown out there: 77 member countries, 100 customs territories. There is 77 official signatory countries to the ATA Carnet Convention. However, some of these countries administer customs in other territories. For example, France administers customs in Monaco, French side of St. Martin. St. Bart's falls under Aruba. Spain covers customs in Canary Islands. South Africa administers customs in Namibia, Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland. So, and this is the world per ATA Carnet. Everything in orange is ATA Carnet friendly. Everything in gray, we are working on. New countries. As you can see, the system is consistently growing with new countries added, and we always like to hear from you guys to tell us which countries we should focus on and push the international community to get on board with Carnet. So in 2011, which was huge for US business, was when Mexico joined the system. 2013, Madagascar, how fun. Bahrain in 2014, Indonesia, Brazil, that was huge for the United States, is when Brazil joined in 2016. Last year was Kazakhstan joined the system, and coming this August, Qatar will be officially part of the ATA Carnet system, and I know that has made a lot of our clients very happy. And then there are countries that are working on being in the system, currently Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, Peru, and the Philippines. So how does an exporter actually obtain an ATA Carnet? They get them from you guys, the logistics providers. But before you start to get concerned about providing a service that you're unfamiliar with, just rely on Roanoke to be your back office. We are your service team. We have an incredible Carnet staff that will back you up, provide you the answers you need to give your clients and the questions they have back, and we walk you through the whole process. So how do you obtain an ATA Carnet? Really easy. We have an online application system. It is very easy to use. It's very intuitive. But again, as I said, we have an incredible Carnet team that's on hand to help you through the whole process. The security deposit. So when you're going through the application system, the USCIB requires a security deposit. And this is, again, another question that I get a lot. Why is the security deposit and what is it for? The ATA Carnet Convention requires that the security deposit be posted, and on every single Carnet has to have a financial guarantee tied to it. In the United States, the council requires 40% of the value of the goods as a security deposit typically. There are a couple of exceptions due to varying duty and claims and penalty rates. Brazil, they require 60%. India, they require 55%. And on motorized vehicles that are able to drive on the open road, they require 100% of the value as a security deposit. What are the options to post a security deposit? Obviously, cash is an option, fully refundable, 6 to 8 weeks after the ATA Carnet is returned and reviewed. But the best option, and the best option for you, is the ATA Carnet surety bond to offer your clients. I know you're very familiar with surety bonds. The ATA Carnet bond is very similar to a customs import bond, but instead of just covering US customs, the ATA Carnet bond covers all of those 77 customs administrations. So again, I get questions, well, I have a CTB, why can't I use that for my Carnet? Well, CTBs and STBs only cover US Customs. ATA Carnet Surety Bond covers all of the Carnet territories and customs administration. So how much does this ATA Carnet cost? The U.S. Council set a basic fee for obtaining the ATA Carnet, and that fee is based on the total value of the goods on the general list. The rates vary based from $235 to $475 max. So if you have a $10 million Carnet, and believe it or not, we do get $10 million Carnets, your cost will not be more for the documentation than $475. There's no total value cap on Carnets. And let's look at an example. You have $50,000 worth of goods on an ATA Carnet going to the UK. The basic processing fee is $340. Roanoke standard published rates for the ATA Carnet bond is $10 per thousand, which is $200 in this case. The total cost is $540 for the ATA Carnet. If you were to take those same $50,000 worth of goods into the UK without a Carnet, you would have to post at minimum 20% of the value to customs, which would be $10,000. So on cost alone, the ATA Carnet is a much better option. And actually, I have a great story that goes along with this, and it has to do with UK. A US jeweler got invited to England's top premier department store, and you know which store I'm talking about. It's absolutely fabulous, and they were invited to do a presentation of their jewelry. I mean, for an American jewelry designer, this was absolutely huge. I mean, he was breaking into the UK market in one of the top department stores. So he grabs his jewelry samples. He's very nervous. He has them physically on him on the plane, and he arrives in London Heathrow, and UK Customs, Her Majesty's Customs, waves him over and sees all the jewelry and says, oh no, we need you to post $80,000 worth of security to us right now before we let you in the country with all those jewels. Coming up with $80,000 standing in front of Her Majesty's Customs in Heathrow Airport is not something you can do overnight. He called his customs broker, and his customs broker said, get on the next flight back to America. We will have an ATA Carnet waiting for you at JFK. We'll turn you back around, and you'll make it to your meeting. And he did. And he has become, as you can imagine, a huge advocate for ATA Carnet. So how long does it take to get an ATA Carnet? Standard processing is 2 business days. So if you were to obtain the ATA Carnet, if you'd submit your application today, which is Thursday, it will be in your hands on Monday or Saturday, depending on which delivery service you prefer. Rush processing is for an additional fee. There is a delivery service for tomorrow. And same-day processing available for all of those lovely clients that I know you all have that needed the ATA Carnet and the shipment to leave yesterday. The best we can do is a couple of hours, but we have 9 pickup locations nationwide providing same-day processing and pickup options. There are additional revenue-generating services along with the ATA Carnet documentation. So you can offer the documentation to your clients, you can offer the ATA Carnet bond to your client, and in addition, you can offer some other coverages. First coverage I'd like to talk about is the ATA Carnet lost document coverage. As you well know, the ATA Carnet still is a physical document that is required to present it to customs along with the goods. We understand how easy it may be to misplace documents in today's increasingly electronic world, and we see this a lot with the airlines. They're all automated, and they get this document package, and they just get lost on a desk somewhere, and the cargo arrives, and the Carnet is not available for entry. The problem with a misplaced ATA Carnet is that you or your customer will literally be stuck and unable to clear customs. Since the ATA Carnet must be present to enter or exit the foreign country, as well as return to the United States, a duplicate Carnet must be obtained. The cost of the duplicate is the same cost as the original, so you're looking at $300 to $500 per USCIB's requirement. But if you purchase ATA Carnet lost document coverage for your client at initial time of application for a flat fee of $35, we will issue those duplicates up to 5, but if you get 5 lost Carnets, I might come knocking to check on what's going on, but we will replace it up to 5 times without any additional fees. The second option is additional revenue generating is ATA Carnet cargo insurance. And I know you're all very familiar with cargo insurance. But what sets apart the ATA Carnet cargo insurance is that ATA Carnet shipments are exposed to a variety of different risks than a single transit shipment. So Roanoke has created an enhanced cargo insurance policy that covers the unique risks that ATA Carnet shipments are exposed to. First off, automatically, goods traveling on an ATA Carnet, even if they're brand new, let's say it's a brand new trade show booth leaving the United States, goes to its first trade show. When it comes back, it's obviously going to be used. It has been used at a trade show, so it goes from new to used. As you all well know, it is very hard to get used goods coverage in a cargo policy. The ATA Carnet cargo insurance already set up to cover automatically used goods. It is an all-risk coverage, and goods are covered for the entire time they're on a Carnet. So the minute it's a Carnet shipment, it's leaving the warehouse in the United States. It transits to U.S. Customs for exportation. It is loaded for exportation. It transits to the foreign Carnet country. It enters into that foreign Carnet country. Let's say it goes to a warehouse in that country to wait to then be transferred to the trade show floor. It is then unpacked and repacked after the show and then sent back to another warehouse. And let's say you have 2 Carnet countries. It transits to another Carnet country and you added more warehouse. Let's say it goes from Germany to Switzerland. And again, unpacked, repacked all over again, and then put in a warehouse. Finally, it ships back to the United States, back to the warehouse in the US. That entire movement is covered on one ATA Carnet policy, cargo insurance policy. If you were not to get the ATA Carnet cargo insurance, your clients would have to have coverage, the standard transit, so that's one coverage, right? When you get to the foreign country, obtaining foreign warehouse coverage, foreign in-country transit coverage, unpacked repacking is very hard coverage to get. And while on the trade show floor, just sitting there unpacked, waiting to be used or demonstrated, and somebody trips and falls and knocks into the monitor and the monitor goes flying, that's covered. The goods are covered while they're unpacked, which is a huge coverage and very hard, again, to obtain. It also covers for those carnets that you're offering your clients as hand-carried goods, they're carrying them themselves on a commercial airline. This policy will also cover that on commercial airlines. It is a very, very, very comprehensive and complete cargo insurance coverage. But at the end of the day, the best part of all of this policy is that it covers duty and fee reimbursement for goods that are lost or stolen. So if your client takes goods into a foreign country and the goods are stolen, foreign customs holds your client liable for bringing those goods in, making them available for the thieves, and that customs entity cannot get their hands on the thieves to make them pay duty, and we all know customs always gets their duty. Your client is liable for full duties, taxes, and penalties for those goods. This insurance coverage will have a duty reimbursement. So not only does it cover the actual loss of the goods, it also covers the additional duties that will need to be paid to customs because the goods were lost or stolen in that country. So how does an ATA Carnet work? Really easy. Again, at any stage, call Roanoke. We're here to help you, walk you through every box, every way to fill everything out. But in a nutshell, ATA Carnets are a color-coded document. Each color represents a specific part in the customs transaction. So the green is the master part of the ATA Carnet. The green cover houses all the information for the entire validity period of the Carnet. And then you have your yellow, whites, and blues. Those are the customs transaction-specific paperwork. These are made up of counterfoils and vouchers. Counterfoils are the boxes that are completed and stay in the Carnet, which ends up being your record, which ends up being our record so we can close out the Carnet. The vouchers are the pages that look similar to the green cover and have the general list attached to them. Those are what are removed by customs for their records. And then the blues, again, are counterfoils and vouchers, but they actually cover transit operations. So if you're going to transit, let's say your client's going from France to Germany, but they're trucking through Switzerland, they can use the blue transits to do transit operations when moving through Switzerland. Options once your client is using their ATA Carnet. So you've sold them the Carnet initially, got all the coverages in place, and the goods are shipped out, and everybody's happy. But now what more can go after they've actually obtained the initial Carnet document? They can request additional sets, which are those additional counterfoils and vouchers for additional country travel. So at time of application, they say to you, I'm only going to Australia once. I swear I'm dabbling in this international business thing and I don't think it's going to do well, but I'll give it a shot. I'm going to just go to Australia. Well, they come back from Australia and tell you, oh my goodness, international business is the best thing in the world. I'm really happy. I've been invited to trade shows in South Korea and in Germany and in the UK. Can I use my same goods? Can I use my same Carnet? Absolutely. You just go online, request additional sets. They show up either next day, or either you get them in your hands next day or within a couple of hours. They come color-coded in numerical order, and you slip them in the Carnet, and off your client goes. I did talk about the duplicate Carnet, which is the Carnet document that replaces the lost, stolen, or destroyed original Carnet. I mentioned the lost document coverage, and it's very important to obtain. And finally, the final option is an extension ATA Carnet. I said in the very beginning, Carnets are valid for 1 year, not longer, period. However, depending on the situation and the country, some countries will allow to extend the goods on a Carnet in that country beyond the first year. So for example, mining equipment stuck in the mine in Canada, if pulled out on or before date of expiration, will destroy the mining project. Canada Customs will say, no problem, we approve an extension Carnet. Tools used in a research lab in Switzerland, if those items pulled out will destroy the data collected, if they pulled out on or before date of expiration and they destroy the data of the project, Swiss Customs will say, no problem, we grant approval for this extension Carnet. The goods can stay beyond the first year. And the circus. Ringling Brothers, even though the circus itself is no longer in business, they have a lot of different shows, and those shows travel the world on ATA Carnet, and China just loves the Ringling Brothers as a company and loves their different acts and circuses that they bring to China, and they grant extensions for them to add tour dates when traveling around China. So it's a fun trivia story. But when it comes to extension Carnets, it is very important that you manage, and we, Roanoke, can provide you the tools to help you manage your Carnets for your clients. But when you get close to that expiration date, and I mean 30 days prior, at the least 30 days prior to expiration date, check in with your client, find out what they're doing. Are they getting the goods out of the country on time? Are they not? If not, what are your options? Because not every country automatically accepts replacement Carnets. Japan does not, period. They require that the Carnet be converted to a temporary importation under bond. UK automatically accepts extension Carnet. So the sooner you know your client is most likely not getting out, you can call us and we can run through your options that you can provide your clients. Just to summarize, I wanted to touch base on best practices, because once you've sold the Carnet to your client, you want to make sure that the whole experience, the goods continue to move. You are offering them a whole white glove, complete ATA Carnet service, making sure at every stop on the way, they are covered, they have the right documentation, and they come back and they're so happy with the business experience that they give you all of their logistics. So first, best practice, I highly recommend rely on Roanoke as your back office. And I don't know how many times I can say this. Please call us at any time you have a question. If there's any doubt, any hiccup, any concern, we have so experienced in ATA Carnets that we can come up with solutions to avoid any further problems. And your clients don't even need to know that we, being your back office, we're providing this information, we're getting you cleared, their goods cleared. They just know that the goods showed up on time at the trade show. Very important best practice. The green cover must be validated by U.S. Customs at initial use. When that Carnet, in the initial use of the Carnet, you've applied for it for your client, you've obtained it, you have to make sure that it is validated. If it's being cargo shipped, that's easy. You present it for exportation as part of your export documentation packages to Customs for cargo release. Customs will validate the green cover of the Carnet and record the yellow exportation. But if it's a hand carry, you need to make sure that your client gets that Carnet validated at the ship's office before they check their luggage in the airport. You can provide them with that service. Go with them, make sure that they get the Carnet validated before exportation. If the Carnet green cover is not validated, foreign customs have full rights to reject the ATA Carnet entry. And if that happens, the first thing you do is call us, because we can provide a guarantee letter taking full financial responsibility for the Carnet not being validated properly. But ideally, let's not have that problem happen, because some countries, like Russia, they will not accept anything. Carnets or any type of shipments going to Russia, every T needs to be crossed, every I needs to be dotted. And if they find a problem, they're looking for problems because they're looking for bribery. And U.S. companies cannot bribe foreign customs officials, period. So always make sure that green cover is validated at time of exportation. The general list must be clearly described as possible. I know the convention terms call it general list. That is because it does not require HTS classification and it is not commodity specific. It is a variety of commodities can be listed on the same general list. And I know I get a lot of pushback from customs brokers and forwarders saying, Amanda, I can't get any more information from my client. Please, please, please issue the Carnet with this vague general list. The reason we're being so strict, the reason we're pushing back is we don't want you to have customs clearance issues when you get to the foreign country. The document, the more information on the ATA Carnet general list, serial numbers, model numbers, brand names, unique identifying characteristics, in layman's terms, no industry abbreviations, there will be less questions and less customs delays from customs, which I know that is the goal that we all want. Very important to note that foreign customs has the right to restrict entry. So one of the best practices I recommend that every time that Carnet clears customs, you as the manager of this Carnet service, make sure that your agent or your client sends you a scanned copy or photograph of that entry done in the Carnet on the counterfoil. Because customs, for example, Singapore, China, Mexico, UAE, and Bahrain, I think I've got them all covered, limit every entry to 6 months. It's their control system. It doesn't change that the ATA Carnet is valid for an entire year period. It just means that the goods and the ATA Carnet can only be in that customs district for that 1 year, for that 6 month period. Most of those countries, actually all of those countries, will grant an extension of the additional 6 months if requested 30 days prior to that 6 months being up. So it's very important to know, did customs restrict that date? And if customs puts today's date in the box 2 on the counterfoil, the goods have to be out by midnight tonight, even if they did it by mistake. So it's very important that the person in front of customs presenting the Carnet is also aware that that box needs to be a certain day. If they put today's date, your customer or your agent should ask, excuse me, officer, why did you limit me till midnight tonight? And the officer might say, oh dear, sorry, I did it by mistake, and change it. But once you walk away from customs, as we all know, customs does not make mistakes. Always note the ATA Carnet number on all supporting documentation. What we do at Roanoke is if there's a problem on a Carnet, we try and fix it. And we try and avoid your client really, having to pay any type of claim. But to do that, we need supporting documentation. So if there's an airway bill of lading, if there is packing list, any type of documentation going along with the ATA Carnet shipment needs to have the Carnet number on it, because we can use that documentation in resolving a claim, only if it has the Carnet number on it. And the same goes to the Carnet. Always notate the airway bill or bill of lading or flight number for passenger hand carries on the counterfoils. Tie that customs transaction to the mode of transportation. As I mentioned before, split and partial shipments are possible, but require a lot of special attention. So it's important that if your client is doing split and partials, that you and your client are aware of the special attention they require. This is a good thing. Expired U.S. ATA Carnets must be accepted by U.S. Customs for reimportation. You would be surprised how many ports in the United States are unaware of that regulation. What it means is the convention and the directive state the goods have to be out of the foreign country on or before date of expiration. So if the goods, let's say, are handed to Shanghai Customs on date of expiration, the goods are loaded on the ocean vessel on date of expiration and sent back to the United States, by pure nature of the mode of shipment, the goods will be back after expiration date. And U.S. Customs can ask why. Oh, we loaded on expiration date and it shipped back and took this route and it took this much time to get here, but they should accept the ATA Carnet. Also, if your client, let's say they're in the mining business and they're working on a project in Australia, they get the goods out of Australia on or before date of expiration, and then they country hop all the way back. Let's say their next mining project in Chad. Chad is not a Carnet country, but it doesn't matter because once they return to the United States, that Carnet is just a registration document for U.S. Customs. U.S. Customs can ask why did it take so long to return, and they can show their itinerary and explain they went to non-Carnet countries. Here's the entry documentation for the non-Carnet countries. Always request a duplicate ATA Carnet as soon as there is the smallest, slightest inkling that the original Carnet is missing, because it's It's a paper document, and time is of the essence with ATA Carnets. And especially if your client has obtained lost document coverage from you, the Carnet, the duplicate is going to cost nothing. So I highly recommend the minute you think the original is lost, request a duplicate. Because by requesting the duplicate, the Carnet can get validated, the duplicate Carnet will get validated, and we can use that if there are any problems or claims. And my best advice of all, and actually results out of a story, is photograph or photocopy the ATA Carnet after each time it's presented to customs. And the reason I say this, I'll tell you the story where I got this idea from. TV show, you're all very familiar with them. This ended up being a huge case. It's a well-known show. They rented their camera equipment from a camera equipment rental house in LA. They obtained their ATA Carnet. They exported out of LAX customs. They imported the Carnet in through Germany customs. They raced across Europe and exported out of French customs, Carnet validated. So Carnet validated by LAX at export, German customs for import, French customs at export. They returned through JFK. CBP at JFK stamped the Carnet back in. These guys are pros at Carnet. They've been using Carnet since the creation of the TV show. They jump in their rental car and off they go and stop somewhere by JFK for lunch. When they come back from lunch, the backpacks from the back seat of the car were stolen. All the gear was still in the trunk, but the backpacks were stolen. They think, well, we're brilliant. We do Carnets really well. We got everything stamped all the way. We're good to go. We're going to return the gear to the rental house, and off we go. Needless to say, a couple months later, they get a notice from German customs. We have no proof the goods exited Germany. You owe us $100,000, period. Their immediate response is, no, we definitely got it exited. We exited out of French customs. Okay, where's the proof? Well, the Carnet was stolen. Was this stamped back by CBP? Yes. Where's the proof? The Carnets were stolen. The proof was all in the Carnets. If they had just taken smartphone photos, we would have been able to resolve that claim. And in today's world, everybody has a smartphone with a camera on it. I highly recommend making that part of your procedures. The secret to ATA Carnet success is the ATA Carnet, along with the goods, must be together for customs clearance. But doesn't mean that the ATA Carnet needs to be affixed to the shipment while it ships. Please, not at all. It should not be affixed to the side of the box or put inside the box. It needs to meet up with the goods for customs clearance. And when in doubt, call Roanoke. We are your back office. So where does Roanoke trade fit into this world of ATA Carnet? The U.S. signed the ATA Carnet Convention over 40 years ago. So the U.S. government went out, signed the World Customs Organization Convention. They came back to the United States and said, well, now we need an entity to run it, govern it, manage it, ensure compliance, and financially guarantee it. So they chose the U.S. Council for International Business, who is an international policy advocacy group lobbying for U.S. business interests in the international arena. And they appointed them, U.S. Customs and U.S. Treasury appointed the U.S. Council in 1968 as the National Guaranteeing Association. Well, the U.S. Council is a policy advocacy group. So they turned around to their longtime member and supporter, Roanoke Trade, and said, how do we implement a customs document system? How do we do this? So they appointed Roanoke as the first service provider for the U.S. Council for International Business. We are the largest provider in the United States. As you know, we offer all associated services and products all in-house, and we offer local printing at any Roanoke Regional Service Center. And now I'm going to turn it back to Jason to handle all the questions.
Thanks so much, Amanda. That was really, really great. I'm sure everybody got a lot out of that. Take a minute to let people enter any more questions that they have right now. Thank everybody for joining us and taking the time to listen in to the presentation. I'll remind you again that there are some handouts that you should be able to get access to on the GoToWebinar control panel. And also let you know that when we close, there will be a short survey that comes up. We very much appreciate your feedback. It's just a couple of questions, and it helps us make better webinar content moving forward. So we've only got a couple questions here, but I will read them. I think you were pretty thorough. First one, you mentioned, understand this here. So certain countries have higher security requirements or different lengths of stay. Are there any other special qualifications for different countries?
That is a very good question. Yes, there are. And actually, this goes back to my point. There are a lot of my point about coming to us with any questions, because one, we built in our Carnet Online software, when you select the country, there's a pop-up window giving you all the special requirements. In addition, if you go to roanoketrade.com/ATA-Carnet, you will see under ATA Carnet countries, we have every single ATA Carnet country and their territory has a dedicated ATA Carnet page listing out any special considerations that may be for that country. For example, Mexico. As I mentioned, Mexico limits every entry to 6 months. They also have a pre-registration requirement. If you have not obtained the pre-registration, which comes with a code that alerts customs you're coming, the ATA Carnet and the shipment will not be allowed into Mexico. Same with China. China also has a pre-registration through the CCPIT in China. And again, this is the information that is country specific. And that is all on, again, in our software as pop-ups as well as dedicated pages, or the best choice is really just call us and we will talk you through the whole shipment and what you need to know about it.
Thank you very much. And then this is a good question. What if the client sells the goods while they're on Carnet? So I guess that means, like, the example of your jeweler in London. What if the department store loved the stuff so much they didn't want them to leave with it and just bought it? What happens then?
I did say in the very beginning of my presentation that commercial samples are used to generate sales orders, not for sale. However, the ATA Carnet was originally created after Second World War to foster trade amongst war-torn Europe. So in the spirit of trade, if the sale is inevitable, like in the case of the jeweler, a sale can happen. There's just two ways to manage it, because obviously it's going to be a breach of the ATA Carnet. One way is if your client and or your agent in that country has a strong relationship with customs, go to the port of entry, inform the port that you have committed a breach of the ATA Carnet and that said goods were sold. Customs office will charge the duty plus the tax plus a 10% penalty. And that 10% penalty is not 10% of the value. It is 10% of the sum of the duty plus the tax. So it's a bit of a slap on the wrist penalty. But, you know, carnets are not intended for sale, but they are intended to foster trade. The second option is, if you're more comfortable, return to the United States, inform us at Roanoke, sorry, our client sold the goods, what do we do now? We will alert the U.S. Council for International Business, and you can handle everything here in the United States by paying the U.S. Council for the breach. In that instance, it will be a little more expensive because both the U.S. Council and the London Chamber, in this case, the London Chamber, will charge a claims handling or claims processing fee, if you will. So really just you weigh up your options. And in any of those cases, we just recommend calling us and we can run you through what is the best option based on that country. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. And just one more question here. And so what does the ATA stand for, and are there other kinds of carnets?
Well, that is a good question. ATA stands for Admission Temporaire, temporary admission. And when you put them together, the T's cross over and it's ATA. Yes, there are other types of carnets. There is the ATA Carnet. There is a TECRO AIT Carnet. The TECRO AIT Carnet is just like an ATA Carnet, but it is specific to Taiwan. So Taiwan is not recognized as an independent country by China. So Taiwan cannot participate in World Customs Organization conventions. But as the United States, we do recognize Taiwan as an independent country. So we have a bilateral agreement with Taiwan that is called the TECRO AIT Carnet. And it's only between Taiwan and the United States. And instead of being in English and French, it's actually in English and Chinese. And then there is another carnet, which we do not have in the United States, as the U.S. is not participatory to, which is the TIR carnets, which is the carnets used for delayed customs entry for cargo transit. I believe
Okay,
I
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, no one else would know, so we'll have to take your word for it. So that's all we have for today. I hope everybody enjoyed the presentation, and if you have any further questions, please reach out to us. Amanda is, as you can tell from her credentials and from this presentation, one of the foremost thought leaders on the subject, so you're in good hands. I'll thank you again for joining us, and that concludes the webinar today. Thank you very much.